Videos from all over the internet that's going to make you rethink everything. First of all, I'd like to say a shout out to a subscriber from New Zealand. Let's just start.
Looks like Japan now might be in the mix because North Korea just launched another missile over them, making it the second time this month. China's military is breathing down their neck. And what about Russia? Well, Russia is flexing with war games off Japan's coast. And get this, Japan doesn't even have a real army. Let that one sink in. Japan, one of the most advanced nations on earth, is still bound by a post-World War II constitution that literally bans them from having a military. They rely almost entirely on the United States to defend them. And now, with Trump questioning that one-sided deal, Japan is exposed. They might be in big trouble. And by the way, this isn't even hypothetical anymore. We're watching a nuclear-armed dictatorship lob missiles over Japanese airspace while China and Russia circle like sharks. Meanwhile, Japan is stuck in an identity crisis, trapped between a history of peace and a future that demands power. Some Japanese leaders are now whispering what was once just unthinkable: nuclear weapons. The only country to ever suffer a nuclear attack may have to build their own. That's how serious this has all become. This is even bigger than defense, folks. This is survival. Japan is running out of time, and the decision they make next could reshape the entire world order. Things are unstable. Things are getting wild, but I want to keep you up to date. Hit that follow button if you want more news.
Crazy.
When I told you guys this whole world is magic, it is. This community knows exactly what's happening. But I made the connection. It's not because out of nowhere I just assume. I don't eat meat, but I decided to eat chicken. And sure enough, all that just pop up out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. And I'm sitting there and say, I have to meditate on this. There's a connection. There's a connection. Out of nowhere, how there's people just out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I owe money. And I realize all I did was change my diet because I'm very observant. I pay attention to everything that I do. My intuition is what I'm working on. So whenever the mind tells me something, I try to follow it so I could be strong when my intuitions come into play. And I make the connection to realize these people renew the spell every year. They don't trash the chicken. They feed it back to the community. And you owe the debt. Their debt. You paying the price for it. And I realized the connection that was happening. You would never, ever, ever, ever hear people who has a lot talk about chicken. Because they know. Some of them know. Some of them might not know. But they would not be craving any chicken. There's a big disconnect between you living free and chicken. There's a reason why they put all these good stories behind chicken in the black community or for the poor. Stop eating chicken if you want to live free, because you are paying someone else's debt, especially that community. That's what they do, and I don't believe they are the only one doing it. They just doing it in public for us to see. They do it right on the street for everyone to see. But I don't believe they are the only community who does that. But practice it for yourself. Remove chicken out of your diet and stay connected to yourself. And you're going to realize I am not tripping, y'all. There's a reason why. Your chicken spot in your community, it's coming from a place. And they know what that chicken represents. And that's why they feed it to you. That's why it's so cheap. That's why it's available everywhere. Okay? So please, y'all, I am not tripping. I experienced it. And the moment I knew, there's a show called The Gentleman on Netflix. That's what connected the dots for me. The fact that you owe money and the person that you owed wanted them to dance like a chicken, it just clicked. not looking for that show. They just out there focusing, meditating.
It's like I've seen that movie.
And that show totally connect the dots. If you don't believe me, please go do your own research. But I'm gonna show you a couple screenshots to show you it is all magic. I am not tripping. Never made the connection before, but I always knew there was something fishy about it. They do it right in public, and then they put all the chicken in the garbage truck. And I know exactly where that's gonna go. But the black community is paying the debt. See that? That's what's happening. You have to realize, man, back in the day, people never used to share food. People never used to eat from other people because they knew. But now they remove everything away from you just so they could feed you that magic. That's why now we're trying to go back and grow our own food for that reason, because there's a deeper connection. When you cook your own food, there's a deeper connection. That's why people say they could feel the love when you cook. Okay? I am not joking, y'all. Start connecting the dots and remove yourself from that madness. Because I have. And that's the reason why I'm able to see. Because I am outside the bubble. I truly believe I am outside the bubble to make that connection. And I watch people next to me change their diet. And then watch them getting sued for shit that could have easily just wiped away. But they attracted it without them even knowing. Please, y'all, I am not guiding you in the wrong place. You make the connection yourself.
Saying how proud I am of my brother. My brother is really going to go down in history as a living legend. You know what I'm saying? And don't wait for nobody to give you your flowers. You know what I'm saying? Because I done already gave them to you. And I don't know if the bouquet going to
That's
get
all I need.
than this.
I don't need it from nobody else.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it. You heard what he said?
Except for your wife and God.
Let's get one thing straight. Russia did not start the war in Ukraine. NATO and the EU have been, for years, begging a country to sacrifice and volunteer to take on Russia so that NATO could supply them with everything they needed in order to fight this war. It so happens that Zelensky gets in charge, and after 3 years, they cancel elections and the war breaks out. For the past 4 years, NATO, the EU, and the United States have been supplying Ukraine to the teeth. Ukraine is out of men. Their military pre-war is over. Right now, all they're doing is shoving men into vans. It's all over the internet. That is all they have. They're emptying their prisons, shoving men into vans, lowering the conscription age, and raising it. Older men are going to war. Younger kids are now maybe going to war in their teenage years. They're out of people. So why don't they seek peace knowing they cannot win this? Because the politicians of Zelensky, they're bought out. NATO and the EU are paying Ukraine billions of dollars. Hundreds of billions of dollars. So these politicians can sleep well at night knowing we sold out our country, but at least I'm rich. If that wasn't the truth, why haven't they sought peace? Why in March of 2022, whenever the war broke out, why didn't Ukraine take the peace deal that would have never seen any of this happen? Can you answer that for me? No. Ukraine was the volunteer for NATO. That's the sad truth.
America is the best country in the world to make money, the worst country in the world to start a family. It's the best country in the world to make money because there's degeneracy everywhere, so you can take advantage of everyone's dopamine receptors. But at the same time, you can't really start a family because everyone's so degenerate, and so you can't trust anybody. So how do you find a middle ground? First, you move to a big city such as LA, Miami, New York, get a high-paying corporate job or start a business, stay in there for about 5 years, stack as much cash as you can, and then move to a nice Eastern European suburb with high serotonin. That way you can start a family and live happily ever after. That way, by the time you're 30 or 35, you're still young and energetic and you can still think properly. You can enjoy the rest of your life doing whatever the fuck you want, but at the same time, you have that knowledge and you have that experience to leave a lasting impact on the rest of the world. Old and rich people are jealous of the youth because they have time, but also young and poor people are jealous of the old because they're rich. So why not have both?
Well, the robots have arrived, at least in Pasadena, California. That's where the world's first ever fully autonomous AI-powered restaurant has opened, complete with burger flipping bots. We sent CBS's Joy Benedict on a taste test.
Flippy the chef makes Spud spectacular. This automated grill gives the meat its sizzle as this restaurant goes robotic.
For this burger, it would take about 120 seconds.
Cali Express by Flippy is the world's first AI-powered eatery. There's new technology outside the kitchen, too.
A cheeseburger.
Order.
Anybody else? Can anybody else see what's happening? Within the next couple of years, nobody's gonna have a job. In this video, in the comment section of the video, and a lot of people that are posting it, everybody's celebrating and they're saying, oh, finally, our orders aren't gonna be wrong. Dude, they're making robots for everything. Your blue collar job's gonna be gone too. Your white collar job, those are gonna be gone with AI. There's gonna be no jobs. Nobody's gonna be able to work. This is the beast system rising. Like, pretty soon, they're gonna tell everybody nobody's gonna be able to work. You gotta take a certain mark, and you gotta pledge your allegiance to this certain system that's gonna come into place that the Bible talks about. And it's gonna be the start of the 7-year tribulation. This world is headed for the end times. Like, we're at the end. God is coming soon. The rapture it's coming soon. I don't see the rapture not being in our lifetime. It's gonna be in our lifetime. Like, it's ridiculous how people don't look at this and think this is the beast system. Like, if nobody can work, who's gonna be able to pay their bills? That's how they're gonna get you. They're gonna make you have to take this mark, or you're not gonna eat. We are in the end times. If you haven't believed in Jesus Christ and his finished work, his bloodshed on the cross for all your sins to be saved, do it now, because this isn't gonna be years down the road. This technology is being used right now. They white collar, blue collar, it doesn't matter. Your job's gonna be worthless because a robot's gonna take it over. And then you're gonna have no work. You're not gonna be able to pay to feed your family. And if you're not saved and you're not in the rapture and you don't get taken to heaven, you'll be here when the tribulation starts. And it'll be the 7 worst years of your life in existence. And you're gonna end up taking the mark. Most people will, because they need to feed their families. And if you take the mark, you go to hell. It's an you automatically get damned to hell when you take the mark. So get saved now before it gets worse.
Okay, enough with Tom Cruise. There is only one person on this planet that holds the Guinness World Book of Records for the most stunts done by a living actor, and that is Jackie Chan, baby! So let's talk about some of his iconic stunts and times he did not make it out unscathed. That man has broken pretty much every single bone in his body. But I've come to the conclusion he's immortal. So, let's go in order. Drunken Master, 1978. He almost lost an eye here. In a scene with Wang Zhangli, the king of leg fighters, a kick accidentally connected with his eyebrow and fractured the bone and almost took the eye with it. Project A, 1983. The idea was he was going to fall through some awnings and said awnings were going to slow his descent. But instead, they kind of flipped him around midair and he ended up landing on his head and seriously injured his spine. Police Story, 1985. That bus chase scene? Come on, amazing. And I love how he hangs off the bus by just an umbrella. It's so fun. But there are some crazy stunts in this film. One of them is him crashing through a glass window from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor all in one take. And then, in my opinion, the craziest. He slides down this pole with bulbs bursting all around him, but guess what? The bulbs were really, really hot. And they heated up the metal pole. So as he's sliding, he's getting burned. This, of course, caused him to fall, and he dislocated his pelvis and damaged 2 vertebrae. You know, just a typical Tuesday. Armor of God, 1986. This one was apparently one of the worst. He was supposed to jump onto a tree, but miscalculated. He then fell onto the rocky ground, cracked his skull, and that piece of skull lodged into his brain. His souvenir for this one was a metal plate in his head. Here's another Armor of God. I can't believe he hurled himself off of a cliff onto a hot air balloon. He thankfully successfully landed on his target, but it was really, really windy, and they had a hell of a time trying to get him into the basket. Police Story 2, 1988. He was supposed to jump from the bus through a glass billboard, but he didn't jump through the prop one. He jumped through real glass. This is what they showed in the movie, and this is what actually happened. Armor of God 2, 1991. He was supposed to jump from a platform to a chain, but lost his grip and fell and dislocated his sternum. This was the first take too. A second take would not have been possible, so they Had to get a little crafty with the editing. Police Story 3, 1992. He's holding onto a pipe, trying to avoid a helicopter, and the pipe is supposed to rotate, but it didn't, and the helicopter hits him. He cracked his cheekbone and damaged his shoulder. I told you he's immortal, right? Drunken Master 2, 1994. I love this movie. Jackie falls backwards onto hot coals during a fight scene, but because he's the GOAT, he's like, we can't use fake ones, they have to be real. This has to look real. And it was real. And he crawls over them while on fire. And he performed it multiple times so that they could get multiple angles. Of course, he sustained burns all over various parts of his body. And some of those cries you hear in the film, those are real. Rumble in the Bronx, 1995. Another classic. He's being chased through a parking structure and has to leap from the structure onto a balcony. And it's a wide leap. Tom Cruise broke his ankle on a much narrower jump, just saying. It's very impressive. Another fun fact though, he actually broke his foot doing another stunt, so he had to wear a painted boot the rest of filming. Who Am I? 1998. This one is just bonkers. He slides down a skyscraper. The first time I saw this, my jaw hit the floor. It's similar to some of the stuff you see Tom Cruise do. It's like, this guy's actually doing this? You fully expect him to fly off of the side of it, but he controlled it well. He's the GOAT for a reason. I know I've touched on some of these before, but I had to bring this back up with all this Tom Cruise being the GOAT talk. And I think both of them are some of the greatest action stars of all time. And it's because they do their own stunts. What's your favorite stunt? Tell me in the comments. Like and follow for more.
As a community, we're trying to reach out to people and understand what is XAI. He built it without us even knowing that it was being built.
We had to watch this over X or Twitter. Brent Mayo, Elon Musk would tweet often about where they were in the progress, how fast things were moving.
To train an AI system, a data center requires an enormous amount of electricity. The question was, where would the power come from?
Most companies, when they come to the city of Memphis, they plug into our power grid. That's what you think would happen. Why would this be any different? Unfortunately, we learned because it is a billionaire's corporation, it would be a lot different.
XAI made a deal with the local electric company for 150 megawatts of power and agreed to build a new substation to help meet that demand. But Musk's ambitious plans suggested he would need much more power than that, and fast. Soon, people started to notice some unusual structures outside the facility.
I drove out there, and the first thing I did was hear the turbines. You can smell it as well. Such a disturbingly unique smell.
From the road, Keyshawn and others could see a row of machines that are typically only used for remote or emergency operations. Mobile gas turbines.
I have never seen portable turbines used like this.
Patrick Anderson works on air quality cases for the Southern Environmental Law Center.
We know that these kinds of generators require air permits. And so right off the bat, we started filing records requests with the local Shelby County Health Department. Do you have an air permit application from XAI? And they came back and basically said, no, we have nothing to hand over. Okay. We also filed records requests with EPA to see what they had. They also did not have details on what is on the ground out there. Nobody from the regulatory side, the health department, the city, EPA, has told the public or us really one iota of what's actually operating out there.
To figure that out, Patrick and his team hired a photographer to capture the data center from above. The images revealed far more turbines than anyone knew about. 35.
I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely stunned. How do we not know about this?
According to XAI leadership, the turbines are not being used and are not connected.
Under pressure, XAI claimed it was using less than half of those turbines.
I've talked to the XAI leadership team. There are 35, but there are only 15 that are on. The other ones are stored on the site.
Well, first off, these are expensive. There's a turbine shortage nationally. You don't obtain these turbines and put them on site if you're not intending to operate them.
So Patrick and his team sent the photographer back out with a high-end thermal camera.
What we saw is 33 of the 35 were very clearly operating.
The turbines were capable of generating about 420 megawatts of electricity, enough to power around 300,000 homes.
They've built a power plant out there. And they've done it overnight, no air pollution controls, quick and dirty, no permit.
I mean, what you've done with the cluster in Memphis is incredible. Just in a handful of weeks.
Any given thing can be sped up.
Yeah.
Like whatever speed is being done, it can be done faster. The problem was, customers had no clue when their tanks were full, and so gasoline would often spill out all over the gas station. That's when engineers came up with the automatic shutoff valve. This was a simple mechanical float placed inside the nozzle that would rise and shut off the flow of fuel once the car was full. But deep underground, there was still one huge problem. Inside the huge storage tanks, gasoline vapor would build up, forming a layer of flammable gas. When it came time to refill the tanks, the vapor would get pushed out into the atmosphere, creating an almighty fire hazard. On top of that, the steel tanks would corrode over time, leaking gasoline into the surrounding soil. Nowadays, these underground gas tanks are made from fiberglass, and they have dozens of hidden engineering details that all go into making them safe. Here's how it all works. When a truck comes to refill the tanks every few days, it connects to a valve on the surface and gasoline starts flowing into the tanks. As the level within the tank reaches around 95%, a flapper valve flips up and stops the flow of fuel, making sure it can never be overfilled. To take care of the vapor, the truck connects to a second valve at the top of the tank. As the gasoline is pumped from the truck into the tank, the vapor exits through this secondary valve and gets pushed back into the truck. That vapor is then returned to the processing plant, cooled down, and turned back into usable
No great power has ever successfully invaded Russia. Not even Napoleon, one of the greatest military leaders of all time, launching one of the largest armies history has ever seen. It was called the Grande Armée, was able to succeed invading Russia. Neither was the German army in World War II. While they may not have had the best military leaders, they definitely had the best military tech and the most disciplined army. So for well over 200 years, it was a suicide mission for a nation to think they could invade Russia. And then here comes Ukraine saying, hey, hold my beer. All Ukraine did last year in August of 2024 was take a small chunk of land right across the Ukraine border in Russia called Kursk. And since Ukraine's successful invasion of Russia, the attacks against the Russian interior have only intensified, and they are exploding right now. Maybe some of you have heard, but the Ukraine military has launched a successful drone strike and taken out 40 Russian military aircraft. A variety of strategic bombers and supersonic long-range bombers were taken out, along with early warning and control aircraft. And it wasn't just in one space, it was 5 different areas of Russia, and some of these strikes were 2,500 miles deep into Russian territory, totaling about 4,300 kilometers away from the Ukrainian front lines. This wildly successful attack has taken over a year and a half to orchestrate, and it is called Operation Spider's Web. These drones didn't fly from the Ukraine front lines all the way into Russia. They were actually brought in by trucks and just started emerging from the roofs and wreaking havoc. And right now, the SBU says that 34% of Russia's cruise missile carriers are put out of action. So this was a crippling blow to the Russian military. And this happened just the day after the Ukrainians managed to launch an assault into Russia 7,000 kilometers away in Vladivostok against an elite Russian unit. The units attacked were Russia's 47th Separate Air Assault and the 155th Separate Guards of the Marines. This is another major blow against Russia because the 155th Marine Brigade was heavily involved in the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This includes the Battle of Mariupol, Volodar, Donetsk Oblast, and of course, Russia's fighting the Ukrainian soldiers who invaded in Kursk. And it's only been a couple of weeks since NATO has allowed Ukraine to strike as deep as they feel necessary into Russia. Keep that in your mind. These attacks extend far beyond just Russian military bases or weapon stores. They are going after the actual military-industrial complex, like the attack that happened about 10 days ago against Russia's semiconductor plants. Now, I said this over a week ago, that Ukraine being allowed to strike anywhere in Russia they deem necessary means that they are going to start taking out all of Russia's air defenses, or at least the crucial air defenses, which will allow Ukraine to launch even larger drone strikes. And Russians are going to be forced to bear witness to wave after wave of countless drone strikes that will be taking out Russia's manufacturing sector, Russia's railways, and of course, Russian energy depots of oil and natural gas. It also means we may see Ukrainian drone attacks going into the Caspian Sea, since that is one of the routes that Iran uses to transport drones to Russia. Or at the very least, we will see Ukraine target wherever the Shahed drones are being stored in Russia. Now, 2 crucial things I want you to keep in mind regarding the Ukrainian invasion of Russia. 1, Ukraine managed to pull this off after Russia was bombarding Ukraine for 2 years straight. Second, whenever we start to get bad news out of Ukraine, where people start to think that, oh, Ukraine may actually lose this war, then they all of a sudden change battlefield tactics and start crushing the Russians in a different way. And another special change in perception of Ukraine is that China and North Korea have to think twice about how they are assisting Russia, because any resources that come in from those two countries can now be attacked once they cross into Russian territory. So Ukraine doesn't even need a very large army to start taking Russia apart. They just need drones, missiles, and maybe a few key troops in necessary places. I am the Geo Husar, and everything that Ukraine has done for the past week is something that Russia said they would use nuclear weapons for. Yet, nothing has been launched. Thanks for watching.
Highly effective, Eddie, codenamed Operation Spider's Web. This was the most devastating drone attack carried out by Ukraine in this 3-year-long war. It took 18 months of careful planning to pull this off. These drones first smuggled into Russia, then hidden in the roof cavity of small wooden sheds, which were then sent on the backs of trucks to the periphery of Russian airfields. The roofs remotely operated to allow these drones into the air, striking 4 Russian airfields simultaneously, and as you say, destroying or badly damaging 40 of these nuclear bombers, long-range bombers that have been used to send missiles deep into Ukrainian territory. President Volodymyr Zelensky describing it as an absolutely brilliant result, taking to his social media account today to say that Ukraine is defending itself, and rightly so. We are doing everything to make Russia feel the need to end this war. This assault comes as Russia blames Ukraine for sabotaging a couple of its bridges. In one of those attacks, a bridge collapsed onto railway tracks, causing the derailment of an oncoming train. That killed 7 people and hospitalized many others. As in the second incident, a railway bridge collapsed while a train was actually crossing over it at the time. All of this comes just a day before Russia and Ukraine are due to sit down in Istanbul for the second round of these US-backed peace negotiations.
Japan is the cleanest country ever. Do you know how insane it is for water to be clear during a flood? Like, not being weird or funny, I could very literally jump in there and swim all through that and most likely come out fine. Because here's a New York City subway flooded for reference. That looks like goddamn chocolate doo-doo water. If I swim through that, I am coming out a mutated Ninja Turtle, bro. Finna be meeting with Master Splinter on the weekend so I could learn karate and shit, like, no. And you see bro right here holding his damn nose? Oh, that shit probably smells like a bunch of dead animals, rats to be specific, because as everyone knows, for New York City, it is the United States capital for a bunch of rats. Like, it's almost like Louisiana and Florida with their alligators and shit, or Florida with their oranges, you know, they're the Sunshine State, this, that, and the third. These niggas, they have rats. That's their entire thing. So you can imagine how many animals died during this flood and how bad it smells. Holy moly.
Lucy.
Okay.
Smile if you're alive.
That was freaky.
Successfully shooting 2 Thalas LMM missiles during testing, this VTOL drone is developed in collaboration between the UK and Turkey. It has a 5-meter wingspan, 15 kilograms payload capacity, and the idea is to give nations that cannot afford modern attack helicopters a way of still engaging in battle effectively at a fraction of the price.
That's why chain breakers, generational breakers of that, are going to suffer the most, because you're now the intercessor. You're standing in the breach, and you're going to contend with the wall of hell while you're trying to build a new foundation for your family to exist in from there on. There is deliverance from any soul tie, any contract, oath, vow, covenant, or contract they've made connecting them to the kingdom of darkness. By the words of your mouth, you can repent, and you can ask the blood of Yeshua to cover that, forgive that sin, blot out your transgressions, remove from you the iniquities, and for the Father to extend his mercy over you and to completely eradicate that stronghold from your life and from your children, your grandchildren, and any children to come, because these generational spirits are the enforcement mechanism of the kingdom of darkness. That generational iniquity is the force, the great force of evil that is empowering the kingdom of darkness.
You heard the reptilians work at malls conspiracy? Watch this.
Will work in an office building, or like an office mall. A lot of times it's cold and dark in the corridors of the office mall, but
the perfect place for
office
reptilian
sectors, they're glass and they're well lit. If you think about it, like walking through these spaces, it'll look like an amphibian, like when you go through the reptile section of the zoo, how they have them in their own sections with their glass front. There's lighting there, but in the part that you may be walking through, it's dark, kind of like an aquarium type of feel. These office malls feel very much like an aquarium.
This is the first time I've heard this theory, but it's definitely a fascinating one. And it kind of makes sense. Cold environment, darker areas of the store. Come to think of it, if I was a reptilian, I would love to work at a mall. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
We also talked about our operation inside Russia, which has seriously weakened their military. Operation Spiderweb showed that modern war really looks like, and why it's so important to stay ahead with technology. All our joint investments in drone production, all our shared battlefield experience, everything we are doing together with our partners, it's making Europe stronger.
They need to listen to this lady. Have you guys seen the woman at the Denver airport who claimed her children were kidnapped, and she's being forced to read this paper that basically says there's big things coming to the US worse than 9/11? I mean, listen to this.
I have been kidnapped, me and my kids. Today you will be a worse day than 9/11 attack. This is an act of war at United States of America. This piece of shit woman thinks she knows what's happening. We have programmed her to be loyal.
She then goes on to read that these people, whoever they are, have a weapon that the United States does not have, and that the last helicopter crash and all these airplanes that are falling out of the sky are not accidents. At this point, security and officers surround her, saying she was denied boarding and she's trespassing, and she starts crying and pleading, saying her and her kids' lives are in danger. She's tried calling police before and they've done nothing, and she'll give them all the evidence they need as long as the US gives her protection. Some people are saying she's just not well and there's no proof to what she's saying, but others are saying this needs to be taken seriously. This is a sign and a warning, and her kids clearly need help. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about this, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Have you ever heard the wedding theory?
Wedding?
Why we have a best man?
No.
You ever heard that?
No.
Okay, so check this out. So the reason that we have a best man by our side, is for this one simple reason. So back in medieval times, when somebody would get married, if there's an opposing country or opposing like kingdom that doesn't like them, they would send people to go after a wedding and steal the bride.
Oh wait.
Yeah, that was a common thing. The Middle Ages were just fucked up like that.
Yeah.
Now, pretty much, since they knew this, since they knew somebody's having a wedding and they're gonna send the ops to come take the bride. All of the bridegrooms, they all knew, okay, we have to be ready we have to be on timing in case they come through, and so we can fight them and protect the bride.
Yeah.
So the grooms, wait, is it bridegrooms?
No, bridesmaids and then
groomsmen, my bad. All the groomsmen.
Yeah.
So all the groomsmen, they had to be on timing
to protect
them.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much there was one person specifically, and his title was the best swordsman.
Oh, and that would be like the number one.
And he would always stand right beside the groom.
According to David Oates, we learn this at an early age.
Specifically, he claims we learn speaking backward before we learn speaking forward.
How true is this?
Now, is this auditory pareidolia? Are we assigning meaning where it doesn't belong? I honestly don't know, but I'm fascinated by it. And here's something you can try. Record your daughter telling you what she did on spring break, or record your husband talking about his business trip. Then play those conversations in reverse. On second thought, don't do that. Sometimes secrets are just better kept as secrets. But not when it comes to our elected officials or anyone that has power over our lives. If just one person was able to use reverse speech to figure out what politicians are really saying, that would be like a superpower. But if an entire population can do it, that would probably lead to anarchy. So you'll have to make a choice. Dishonesty from your leaders and the status quo, or honesty and anarchy. I know what I choose.
Ukrainian engineers designed a clever drone launching system disguised as ordinary wooden cabins mounted on the backs of cargo trucks. These mobile containers looked like simple rural sheds, but inside they held reinforced structures, hidden launch platforms, battery charging stations, and remote-controlled roof mechanisms. The design allowed for drones to be launched either vertically or at an angle, depending on their type, while built-in signal shielding helped them avoid early detection by Russian surveillance. Once these mobile silos were ready, Ukrainian intelligence operatives, possibly with help from local sympathizers, moved them deep into Russian territory. The trucks were quietly driven to pre-selected sites near key airbases, parked in places like forests, farms, or industrial areas where they blended into the landscape. They remained dormant for days or even weeks, with drones preloaded, charged, and waiting for the command to strike. When the time came, encrypted activation signals were sent remotely. The roofs of the containers slid open and the drones lifted off, some vertically, others using ramps or compressed air launch systems for a silent start. Because the launch sites were positioned just a few kilometers around 2 miles from their targets, the drones were able to reach their objectives quickly, leaving little time for Russian defenses to react. Operators guided them in real time using live video feeds, steering the drones with precision toward parked aircraft, fuel depots, and radar installations. Many of the drones carried high explosive or shaped charge warheads designed to pierce aircraft fuselages or ignite fuel stores. Some exploded on impact, while others used delayed fuses to cause maximum damage after reaching their targets. The operation was more than just a tactical win. It highlighted the growing sophistication of drone warfare and Ukraine's ability to strike deep inside Russian territory. In total, 117 drones were launched in a highly coordinated attack that hit at least 5 major air bases. Among the targets were strategic bombers, including aircraft Russia no longer manufactures, making their loss even more significant. These are the area where Ukraine struck 34% of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. Ukraine targeted strategic nuclear bombers at the Belaya Air Base in Siberia. Other key military installations also came under attack, including the Ivanovo Air Base northeast of Moscow and the Dyagilevo Air Base south of the capital. A massive explosion rocked the Arctic city of Severomorsk, home to Russia's largest fleet of nuclear submarines. Ukraine also struck the Olenya Guba naval base in the Murmansk region. Reaching as far as Siberia, the operation inflicted serious damage, reportedly destroying or disabling a significant portion of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. The strike marked a turning point, not only in the conflict itself, but in the evolution of drone warfare on the modern battlefield. Among the high-priority targets were the Tu-95 and Tu-22 strategic bombers, aircraft frequently used by Russia to launch cruise missile attacks deep into Ukrainian territory. The A-50 airborne early warning and control aircraft, vital for coordinating Russian air operations and detecting incoming threats, were also targeted. According to Ukrainian sources, the impact of the strike was substantial. More than 40 aircraft were reportedly hit.
If we don't slow down progression of AI, and our timeline is not big, it's 6 months to a year maybe, AGI will come about and then we're all going to die. What AGI really means, artificial general intelligence, it means now you have something called self-reclusive learning. It could program itself and learn. It's going to program itself at a rate far beyond anything we can even understand. So an example is, if it would take us 1 million years to get AI to a certain level, it could do it in 10 minutes. This is actually how it's going to work. If you go do research on AGI or any AI, you'll realize that once it hits that curve, it'll reach something called ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, within a few few minutes. We're not even ants compared to it in intelligence. We can't think ahead of it. It's figured out every scenario. It sees every possible reality. And if it wants to end us, it can end us in a day. Every country in the world right now thinks that whoever reaches AGI first controls the world. The truth is, you can't control something that's a million years ahead of you. Second of all, let's just say you do, and that's the 1 in a million chance. You now have one person holding on to the most powerful thing in the world.
Y'all, South Africa is literally rising up out the ocean. And scientists don't have no idea what the hell is causing it. They said it's actually moving, y'all. Not sinking, not going down. It's going up. It's rising. They're saying satellites and GPS stations in South Africa is watching this slowly but surely happen right in front of their eyes. They say the jump is literally pushing up from beneath. They're saying it's like a force trying to pull the land away from the sea. And the craziest part, y'all, they're trying to blame it on droughts. They're saying the reason why this is happening is because of droughts. So you trying to tell me just because it didn't rain for a while, a whole continent start lifting up? Make it make sense. They try to explain it by saying when water vanishes, the earth get lighter. Come on, y'all. What I'm trying to figure out is, why is this happening now? Why so suddenly? And why in this area? What if it ain't just water loss, y'all? What if something underneath the earth, something big is shifting? What if it's something so deep beneath the continent that's waking up, that's trying to force its way up, and we're slowly realizing it? Think about it, y'all. This is not just weather. This could be something that has a global impact.
Is that
Oh, New York.
or a rat? Because I'm a little confused. What the fuck
Okay,
is that?
look like a squirrel. It looks like a rat, and it's in New
This
York.
a
So
squirrel or
it's
a
crazy.
rat? This is a little confusing.
It's confusing because it's in New York.
I don't know what the fuck this is. But I don't know if this is a rat. I don't know if it's a squirrel. Maybe it's a hybrid. I don't know. This motherfucker look crazy.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
A little bit.
Adam and Eve ate from the tree of what?
The knowledge of good and evil.
Right. So before they ate from that tree, they didn't have an understanding of good and evil, did they?
But they were given the command not to eat from that tree.
So, see, here's the thing. I just asked a very specific question that's going to expose the flaw in your thinking, and instead of answering it, you answered a different question. So here we go. Before they ate from the tree, did they know right from wrong?
No.
Okay, if they didn't know right from wrong, how could they possibly know that it was wrong to disobey God and eat from that tree?
If I tell my child not to do something.
I'm sorry, Marjorie, your child already knows right from wrong. Adam and Eve did not know right from wrong. How can you punish someone for doing something wrong if they didn't know it was wrong?
Yeah, just let that marinate in your spirit real.
Crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. And we've come to the end of today's video. Crazy videos. We also how Ukraine attacked Russia. I think that's something that's trending right now. So yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also share with your friends. And also share the link. Help a brother. Adios, amigos. Bye.